Hi, everybody. I think I'm live and I'm not sure. So, this is, like I say, a test stream. So, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm going to do the political compass test because I've seen a couple of people do that, and it's a nice, handy one because I'm not quite confident at what I'm doing. I've set up two screens, which is the first time I've ever used this, and it's actually pretty cool. I can see a lot. There's a lot of control over it and stuff. So, I'm quite happy. First thing, anyway, I want to do is say hello in the chat because I need to figure it out for StreamYard just to know what's going on. So if I'm on and I'm not just talking to a computer, let me know. I'm going to check my YouTube now. Am I on? This is actually cool. I like it. If I am on, because I don't even know for sure yet. I'll find out in a second. Yeah, you're all there. Nice one. Happy days. I'm live. Okay. That's where I needed to start anyway. I'm also going to just tweet this out. I'm not going to have many people watching now because it's late. But why not? If anyone on Twitter wants to join in, happy days. Just tweeting that. It is cool, actually. If you haven't done it before, having two screens like this, it feels like there's a lot of control at your fingertips. I've never done gaming or any of that stuff. Last time I did gaming, I was like 14. No offense to all the gamers or anything. It's just I stopped. Last game I played was Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So that's how long ago it goes. Okay, I'm checking on the chat here to see what's going on. The coronavirus is the get out of jail card for the soon to bomb. Oh yeah. So the economies are going to go anyway. So people are going to use coronavirus as a get out of jail free card. They can do that, I'd say, yeah. YouTube didn't notify you. I don't know. Click the bell or whatever. I don't know much about that stuff. I'm on the YouTube. I'm watching the thing you're watching now, and it's a few seconds delayed. So I'm looking at my face. Very jarring because it's the time delayed. I'm just letting you know the inside scoop here, what it's like. What else? I did kind of want to start. So you can see the political compass test. I just wanted to start on two little things from Twitter that just kind of I was just interesting me for the last hour or two. I've been probably like a lot of you looking up coronavirus stuff, coronavirus Ireland, Italy, Iran, South Korea, kind of keeping up with it. It is a little bit of a drama, like an entertainment or a soap opera in a kind of a strange way. But it was like, when the Iran thing was going on with the Soleimani, I think a lot of people were living through it vicariously or something. I'm kind of doing that with Corona. Glasnevin has coronavirus, yeah. So if you didn't see a school, I don't know if it's fully confirmed yet, but a school has been shut down for a while because of coronavirus. Apparently some kid was skiing. Another case in Glasnevin. And the HSE tried to keep it a secret, but they spilled the beans kind of while they were, like they've said in this the video they did, the stream I was going to say, in the press conference they mentioned it was a kid accidentally. But they also were trying to say that they're not giving away the location of the school. But of course, everybody knew within about 20 seconds who it was, because you can't shut that kind of information down. And they kind of harmed their own credibility. They look like they're covering things up. Oh no, I can see the. Okay, sorry, I was kind of buffering there for a second in the YouTube video. I hope it didn't do that for you. Anyway, they tried to cover it up, and it was just a complete disaster. And if they had a brain, they would have known it's smarter to just come out and say it. They did, like, no one in their comms department understood risk reward or cost benefit. Everybody's going to find out as well, you might as well divulge anyway. But and now the journalists are freaking out, saying that it should be kept silent out of respect for privacy. It's very much a case of state media alliance, where, as far as I'm just checking in on the chat again, sorry, as far as I can tell, the journalists, the regime journalists, are just that. They are regime. I think of them as like comms communications managers for the state. They will do a bit of criticism here and there, but when the government will have a line they follow in, and I'll just give you an example of that. Okay, so, okay, Boomer Tech here. If I can, yeah. I'm just going to move this tweet. This is my own tweet. I'm using my own tweet as material here. Why not? We have Gavin O'Reilly. So he's saying, if you live nearby, you'll know the school, right? So if you live nearby, you'll know what school it was. If you don't live nearby, it's not your concern. It's not your concern. Like again, this guy's a journalist. He's meant to tell you if there was a, let's see what type of journalist he is exactly. Political correspondent, right? So if there's an election due or whatever, now he's telling you what you shouldn't do as a, I'm the information agent here, not you guys. There's an element to that kind of tone policing, or not even tone policing, but just telling you what you can and can't say. Like piss off, Publicly naming the school only feeds the frenzy. And this is the bit I'm interested in. I'll get to my point there now. I just want to check the chat and see how you're all doing. Still no temperature, someone says. Funny. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself here with the chat, but it's new to me actually. Just seeing the Serena Irvin. How's it going? Yeah, it's cool actually to have you there. I'm not used to this, but so and it's actually a lot more enjoyable. So anyway, he says, think about this, right? Publicly naming the school only feeds the frenzy that makes it harder, and that makes it harder for someone in a possible second school to come forward. I don't understand that. Look, why doesn't he just come out and say, you public, shut up, I'll be the information disseminator, not you, and just shut up because I said so and because the state said so and HSE said so. If that's what you want to say, just say that, right? There's no need to add on a point at the end that is completely undemonstrable, right? I'm like, citation needed. I need to see a citation where, actually, I don't need to see a citation. I just need him to back up, just to explain to us how that follows. How does that make sense? So, okay, so you name a school publicly. You say it's X school, the Dublin school, Glasnevin school, we'll call it, right? You name Glasnevin school, and then there's a frenzy, which granted, there's a bit of a kind of discussion online, people saying, oh, that school and this and that, and oh, someone has it, and just this kind of general atmosphere about that school, kind of, what's the word? There's a buzz about that school online, right? It's trending a little bit or whatever. Okay, that happens, but why does it follow that then it makes it harder for someone in another school, say a school in Mallow next week? Someone is sick, they are very sick from some kind of flu, and they go, oh, I'd better go to the doctor. And they go, no, I can't. There was a frenzy about a school last week, so therefore I can't bring my school's name into disrepute. I can't even get my head around it because it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. It's a complete bullshit. And like I said to him, citation needed. Thanks for the sermon, journalist. I'm sure that's demonstrable. It's not demonstrable. That's bullshit. He pulled that out of his hole. It doesn't. I really do want to see a study that says when this happens, and when X happens, Y follows. That's not the case at all. Gavin O'Reilly. Anyway, and was there another one? Just one that interested me, and then I'll get on to the political scales thing. Hopefully, whether that's our scales, political compass. So Richard Chambers earlier says no, and I don't know, is he quoting HSE or he's just saying it himself? He didn't put quotes on anyway, so technically it sounds like he's saying it. He says no evidence to suggest flight restrictions would be effective in stopping spread of coronavirus. Sorry, no, whether that's him saying it or HSE, it doesn't matter. As I said to him, there are currently 2 known cases of coronavirus on this island, as in this landmass, Ireland, right? Both of which came in via flight from northern Italy. Both of them. Again, it's like, how did they have such free reign to lie, and they talk about rumors, spreading rumors and fake news and all this stuff. But it's like, why do you get to just say that? Why do you get to just say that? And it's like, what? You get away with it. Like, no evidence to suggest. How the hell is there? Of course there's evidence. We live on an island, right? And the 2 flights, lo and behold, came from northern Italy, a place that was well known, before these people came in, as hotspots and whatever. So I'd rather if they just said, hey, there is evidence to suggest it would stop it, but it comes at too high a cost and the risk isn't that high, or something like that. Say that if you want to. Don't just lie to our faces, Anyway, time to check back in on you guys in the chat. So am I just rambling or am I making sense? That kind of way. Oh, I might need mods. Who do I have? Do I have some of the Stasi? I mean, do I really care? I must get mods actually, because I don't want all of the NGO like basically they are Stasi, right? A lot of them are government paid, and that's not a cope. That's true. And they don't want to debate. They don't want to argue. They don't want to do anything. They just want to attack you personally and all this kind of stuff. They want to bring you down. They want to do all these things to you. it's not a case. I'm just making this point now for the first on the outset of me streaming, because I was thinking about that. Does that kind of go against free speech? No, it does not, because anyone who would come on here and give me all sorts of shit, and I'm not talking about someone saying I'm wrong about this or wrong about that, or that I'm too, like, let's say Betwixt, right? He came out with a video that kind of sideways mentioned me about something, and I was like, that's a disagreement. Even if he was he was polite, but even if he was a bit more into it, I still would have been like, that's fine, no problem. That's a political disagreement, you know what I mean? Even if it's a bit whatever, then all good, right? But this kind of stuff where they're just trying to demoralize you, and they're just trying to like find out where you work and where you live, and say, this guy is whatever, and and everybody gets it, like, from these guys, but they're it's purely there to demoralize you. I've always thought, when I see these awful, these ugly tweets where they're like just being viciously mean, basically, right, or kind of abusive, every time I see one of them, because the point is to demoralize, and when you see those, even unbeknownst to yourself, sometimes it actually can demoralize you. You have to be careful. And what I've done is, in order to flip that on its head, whenever I feel a slight bit of like, oh fuck, that kind of is negative vibe, so to speak, what I do is I go, okay, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to, because I might not make a video for a few weeks. I go, right, I'm going to make a video now. And I wasn't going to make a video. I was being too lazy. But now I'm definitely going to make one. And it's going to be about something completely positive from my own end and stuff. So what you do is, it sounds a bit cliched, but take that little feeling of, oh, that's bad, and you go, I'm going to do, it's basically a case of doing exactly what the opposite of what they were aiming to achieve. You do that. So, it's a good way of looking at it. But yeah, I will ban those people, because it's not a case of free speech or any of that. Those people, if they want to have a YouTube channel and a Twitter and all of that, I genuinely, not to sound like whoever it wasn't Voltaire, but that kind of quote about defending people's rights to say things, I would defend their right to have a Twitter and a YouTube and all that stuff of their own. And I wouldn't try to have it blocked or any of that, even if I had power to. I would say leave them have it. But I'm realizing now that I was supposed to do a political compass test, and I'm still talking. But yeah, it's not a case of that, because it's like I want them to have their own pages and everything else. But like, it's different. It's like, I want people to have the so-called street, the online street of political discourse, the public square, right? What I'm saying is that when I do a stream on my YouTube channel, it's more kind of like my house. So that if someone's in your house and they're like being awful to you, or being whatever, you just kick them out of your house, right? You're entitled to that. That isn't breaking free speech or anything, or being censorious. And that's it. So yeah, and again, I don't mind, like, disagree all you want, or whatever, and even be a bit, like a little bit of ribbing and stuff is fine. I'm not sensitive, but it's just these people just being toxic. No way. There's no point. Is someone asking me something? You should invite them for dinner. So not welcome. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading here. I don't know how much I'm allowed to get absorbed in chat. Preventing harassment via blocking does not equal stopping free speech. The Green Room says that. Well done, Green Room. Good point. I mean, that's kind of my point as well. Like, it's not like that. It's like, if one of these guys, for example, who, let's say one of these guys has been terrible inside the chat, and I just get rid of them, right? Some person who works for a state NGO. I mean, it's not sincere. But I mean, if they say, you banned me, you're trying to censor my voice off your YouTube or something, I'd be like, well, come on, and we can do a 4-hour stream, right? And I'll give you double the time, and I'll be nice, and I'll give you all the handicaps, right? But just a sincere discussion. So, and if you refuse that, then as Lee Kuan Yew would say about it, I have to find that quote. I love that quote. He said, when your accuser won't face you in open ground, then there's no more to be said. So, that's that. I'm loving checking the chat here. This is fun. But am I missing stuff? See, that's the thing. You do end up missing stuff. Irish Wolf. See, I'm just trying to copy YouTube, because I watch a bit of YouTube, of course. And I'm just trying to, it's almost like I'm trying to do what they do. But it seems contrived, because I'm not used to it. I'm like, Irish Wolf says, thanks, Garrod. Hey. But yeah, hi, Irish Wolf, though. I recognize you from around. Yeah, okay. I'll come back to the chat in a while, and I'll go through them a bit better. Why don't I do the someone right X Garrod? Right. Nice one. Cheers. More peace. But I was coming, nobody was talking to me. Okay, I'd better go do something now because I can't. I'm reading the chat and you were here, right? It's a bit ridiculous. So I'm closing my Twitters there now, and we're on to Politicals. Okay, so I haven't seen this before. It's a little bit of a drink there. I haven't seen this before, or I haven't done it before, so it's kind of interesting and new to me as well. Welcome to Political, blah blah blah. I think I can skip that. Start the test. Okay, so foreigners enrich our culture. Hey, happy days. Great start. Foreigners enrich our culture. This is fun. This is interesting. Oh, it's Niall McConnell there. People think they can say anything. Also, my mods ban people suit too. So yeah, dead right. It just has to be that way. It's more like a community or your house or whatever. It's like bringing people over and chatting away, and it's open to new people to come in. It's completely open, but you can't take the piss. Last True Gale says, "Oh, okay." I don't know what he's replying to. I'm kind of getting lost in it here. Okay, so back to the test. Foreigners enrich our culture. Absolutely. Okay, so what are the options? Absolutely agree, somewhat agree, neutral or hesitant, rather disagree, absolute disagree. I'm reluctant. Everybody wants me to say absolutely disagree, I suppose. I would say, do you know what I would say? In normal times, I would say, I would probably say neutral or hesitant or rather disagree. I think I'd be pretty, what's the word? Moderate on that. I would say, with the same views I have, I would still say probably neutral, because maybe there's this good and bad, or rather disagree. But in 2020, the way it is, the way it's being done, and so industrially and so top down from globalist kind of institutions and all of that, and the fact that it's this kind of the mantra, it's the kind of like, it is the mantra of globalism. The enrich our culture, diversity is a strength, blah, blah, blah. Given that's the case, I'm going to say, and it's only in this context, because again, if I were in Japan and I said, hey, a couple of Westerners, a couple of Africans, a couple of whatever, then I suppose the mantra would almost somehow be true. A bit of the odd person, right, is interesting and whatever. There's a grain of truth in that statement, but because it's the way it is, absolute disagree. I know what that's going to. Okay, so I've clicked on absolutely disagree. Return to previous question. This might end now. And now it says question. Oh, fuck's sake! Sorry. Return to previous question. Okay, I kind of got lost in what I was actually seeing there because I'm mad. Banks should remain private. Banks should remain private. God, it really gets you thinking, doesn't it? 80 people watching me. Mad. I'm going to get back to the test, I swear. Enrich our culture. They provide nothing for society. I mean, I don't mean to sound weak on it, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, if it were a normal world, if it were 50 years ago, or if we were in, like I say, Japan or somewhere like that, kind of countries that's still normal, you might not be so hardline on it. Yeah, so it depends on private. Banks should remain private. Oi. See, I don't want to pretend to know more than I do. I think I have. That's a tough one, because in one sense, see, let's look at it in the 2008 sense, where like the banks get to. I don't know if I should curse on. Oh yeah, I should make. Oh, by the way, sorry. I'm sorry. Look, it's incoherent because I'm testing the technology, but I'm also testing myself, so I'm trying to figure it out. Here's my thing. If any of you can tell me how to make some of you mods, then let me know. All right. Because I don't know. Oh, I see a thing. Add moderator. Okay, it's pretty easy. Now who do I trust? Because I know some of you from other platforms, but how do I know it's really you? That kind of thing. Green room, I suppose I can trust you, can't I? Unless you have take her handy G first stream. I know, I'll try to calm down, yeah. Is green room there? Yeah, can I mod you? Just hey. Okay. Okay, add moderator. Green room is now a moderator. Happy days. Okay, so if you don't mind, but I don't want to keep you up too late, so if you have to go. And banks should remain private. 2008, they were private, so they got to screw everybody, and then then they got bailed out by the state for their own kind of gambling and all of that. So it's kind of like capitalism for the masses and socialism for the like millionaire elites. So I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to go neutral or hesitant. It's a good answer for that, isn't it? It is necessary to massively invest in research to improve productivity. Absolutely agree. Well, yeah, actually, yeah. As so long as the research is done, a green room says I'll do a good job. So long as the research is done, it's not corrupt or whatever, then I have to absolutely agree. Like, yeah, Singapore has made itself like a key country in life sciences, like biotech and all that kind of stuff, and they've done very well as a state because they have no other industry because they're a small city state. Anyway, absolutely agree. How many questions are there? Oh, there's 117. I'll speed up. Is it important to encourage an agriculture that maintains a food biodiversity, even if the output is inferior? Somewhat agree to an extent, yeah. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce changes in society. Changes in an individual's way of life. Somewhat agree. Hi, everybody. Back to the chat. Anyone got a can of WD-40? What have I done? Okay, so in terms of mods, yeah, I'll be prepared for next time and know who's who and what's what and everything, so I can set up more mods, and talk to people in chats and stuff in advance. I'm banned by numerous shill channels. Am I a shill channel? I don't know. Maybe. Green room as judge, jury, and executioner. Okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Oh, 7 Pete. Garrod is doing great work. Cheers. Okay, so the test. I'm equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of other countries. Absolutely disagree. It's no insult to anybody from anywhere else, but patriotism I respect from a Ghanaian or a Brazilian or a Russian or an Irish person. Absolutely disagree. You should not be equally concerned. That's not a good way of organizing society or the world. Absolutely disagree. Wage labor is a form of theft from workers by companies. Tough one. I'm not a communist or anything. I understand the arguments of capitalism are very strong and logical in so many ways, but again, the idea that just the fundamental of capitalism is a bit troubling sometimes. I was watching a video today by Alternative Hypothesis. I forget what it's called. I can link to it actually if you'd like me to, or find it. So Alternative Hypothesis. It's about Jeff Bezos. And outsized wealth. He has like Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and all that. He's basically making the argument that like up until a certain point, Jeff Bezos's intelligence and his productivity and his market value and all that makes sense. If he becomes a multimillionaire, 10 million, maybe he's worth that. Maybe his intelligence and ideas and all of that are worth it. But you get to a billion, 100 billion, something like that. At that point, it doesn't make sense anymore. The arguments of capitalism break down at that point. He cannot be worth that money. That value, that is, surplus value and all of that extracted from the backs of all his workers. And not only his workers, like the low-level ones, but some genius managers and all of these people who are probably keeping the whole show going and all that. At what point does he just become some kind of big fat king, just kind of unelected kind of king? And All-Type also makes the argument that I should add this to the chat, but you'll start watching it. I'm going to add it in afterwards later, but or after. Yeah, also just that people who take over things like Facebook and Amazon and all of that just get lucky in a sense. They are good workers and they're intelligent and innovative and entrepreneurial, but in a way they just got in. Like if Amazon didn't happen, some other thing would have happened because at a certain point, that was just going to happen. Technology had caught up to that point where like the infrastructure was there, the internet, the computer systems, hardware, software, the communications network around the world had made it such that there was now a roadway or an infrastructure for a thing like a shopping platform such as Amazon, and they just got in there, and they might have done it the best at the time. But the idea that forevermore they just get to sit there and just become like the first $1 trillion company and stuff, off the backs, and then it's their labor gets like just minimum wage, the minimum that the state will protect. No, why shouldn't the workers who actually are making it happen all the time get more, or get a share or a cut of that value, instead of it all going to this one weird Bezos guy? So wage labor is a form of theft from the workers by companies. I somewhat agree. How about that? Marriage should be abolished. Absolutely disagree for obvious reasons. No point going over the obvious stuff, you know. That's just trying to ask me if I'm a communist or a kind of intense, like what would it be, like Gramsci, these kind of guys, Mark Hughes or all of these guys. I'm not that. So political, you can know that. We need to make companies with the opposition. We need companies. Jesus Christ! It is, what time is it? 12 o'clock. Or sorry, 11:30. Okay, so that's my excuse. We need to make compromises with the opposition to apply our ideas. But neutral or hesitant, because you actually do need to make compromises. I said this is a can of worms here because there's a lot of people on the, let's say, radical right or the dissident right who will say, Niall O'Connell says hack arrowed. I see. I don't know what I'm catching up on here, but I'll take it. You know, a lot of people on that kind of dissident right will say, like, will be a bit uncompromising, I find anyway. And it's that thing of whether you're cooking or whether you're being a spurg or all this stuff. I don't know, there's truth to both sides, but there is such thing as being too uncompromising. And it takes all types as well. I like people who are uncompromising, and then I also like people who are a bit Machiavellian or a bit maybe play the game in a little way. Not everybody needs to be one way anyway, so I'm not criticizing anyone for that. It does take all types, but I just think there is a strain of being too uncompromising. That pragmatism, someone says there, simple as that. For example, like being against globalism, right? I'm anti-globalist. I'm against globalism as an ideology, but the idea that Niall says he used my videos for his election debates. Nice one. I'm honored, but yeah, so something like globalism, like you can be anti-globalism, maybe a little bit anti-globalization, but to say you need to shut the borders entirely, kick every multinational company out, blah, 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 all this very pure discourse. It's like, well, you'd actually do better to, if you actually engage with it pragmatically, as the person said there, as Tomas said, then you might actually have a stronger case. You might be able to bring it to people and go, this actually could work. This actually makes sense. This could be followed through on. So there's an element to compromise that's important. But you don't want to overly compromise. I'll say rather somewhat agree. If two countries have similar economies, social systems, and environmental norms, then the free market between them has no negative impact. Similar economies, social systems, and environmental norms, then a free market between them. There's an element to that is kind of true. You know, if you have two countries, like they say, it's a mad on this side of the stream. Oh yeah, for Niall, Niall's like watching, because Niall, you are on a lot. That's one thing I absolutely admire your show for more than probably anyone else, is that you're on so consistently. I know that's hard myself because you're kind of in the mood sometimes, other times you're not. But what was I on about? Yeah, so say in theory you have two perfectly same economies, social systems and environmental norms, and there's no cheating or kind of whatever going on. If these two economies, the idea of having an open market there in certain senses can be good because, of course, you have, so let's say something like insurance. If you could have insurance companies or healthcare systems, healthcare insurance or something for larger amounts of people, in theory it should work more. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you look to America and it doesn't work. I don't know. There's all sorts of variables, but in certain senses, economies of scale over something like the size of Europe would make sense. Rather than, it's hard to sustain kind of certain markets in like it doesn't exist in reality, the last True Gale says. But sometimes like with a pool of 5 million people, you know, it's kind of hard to maintain some of these big, huge things. Or let's say something like, I'm thinking of airlines maybe, but airlines are different really. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know more than I do. I'll always try to refrain from doing that. But I feel like saying, it says it has no negative impact. So the statement, so on that basis, I can say it would have some impact or loads of impact, either some or no. It would have some negative impact or a lot. It wouldn't have no negative impact. So I'm saying rather disagree. The social roles of women and men can partly be explained by biological differences. Partly, yeah, loads, absolutely, massively, absolutely agree, for obvious reasons. Men and women are different. They're the same in some ways. They're different in loads of ways. Why is this like? You hear Jordan Peterson have to like explain himself for like an hour to this journalist or whatever. It's like, oh my god. So nobody is by nature predisposed to criminality. I think people are predisposed. I won't go absolutely agree because I'm a little bit of a kind of a softy on that stuff. You can change. You're not determined by your parents or your grandparents or your genes or something. I think there's an element of what's the word? There's a word for this, self-determinism or whatever, that you can do. So I'll say rather disagree, because on the other hand, human nature is, I don't know, something like 50-50 nature, but nature is massive. And that's the gravity you're always going to be working with or against or whatever. So, and criminality does seem to show, I don't have the study to hand or whatever, but look it up. It seems to appear to be the case in a lot of things. Criminality of certain countries, certain groups, things like that. So I'll say rather rather disagree. Elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. I agree. Yeah. For example, if you said, like, we can have an election on the apple doesn't fall. I'm just going to do a little chat check here. Men and women are completely different. Serena Irvine said, word. Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'll go through it a bit more in a while. Yeah. People just agreeing and disagreeing with the questions, but I don't know which one we're on for you guys or whatever. So, elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. That counts for referenda as well, or referenda. We have one on what is it? Blasphemy, women in the home, the abortion one. I think the powers that be wanted that. The Catholic powers that be 40 years ago didn't, but we have different powers that be now. We have multinationals and all of that. Of course, they want that. I saw this company. What are they called? I've forgotten their name, but they were doing a Dublin company. What were they called? Damn, my memory is getting bad. They were doing corporate egg freezing, and all this stuff, like women having kids. And this is not a conspiracy theory, or I don't need a source or a citation for this. This is just obvious. The corporate world does not like women having kids. Why would it? Why would it? Right? They don't. Of course, it hurts their bottom line in all sorts of ways over and over again. So if they can reduce it to Tesco freeze eggs, no, it was some kind of a techie company or something like that. If you look up corporate egg freezing Ireland, maybe I'll do it. I won't, whatever, because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I like, you know what I mean? They're not going to say it, or it's not going to be heard or said anywhere, but it's clearly obvious that women having kids in their 20s and 30s or whatever, or before or after that, is a hindrance to them financially and organizationally and all of that, human resources, in the human sense of human resources. So they had that, and the gay marriage one again was the kind of ruling regime were behind that. We won't have a referendum on whether we should cut back on immigration, whether we should become a minority, whether water charges should happen or not. There's no referendum on that. Whether we should have bailed out the banks or not bailed out the banks. Why not do an election on that, on something that's important, right? So if you actually stop and think about it for a second, that's a really important thing. I thought elections were meant to be about, and referenda are meant to be about important things. No. That doesn't go to referendum. You have to question why that doesn't happen, because it doesn't make sense. There's no way that makes any kind of sense besides elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. They can't. They put up these little things, these little balls of twine for you to play with. That's kind of all it is. Now, we should be trying to get elected and play the game and all that, given that it's there, but it is a bit of a joke, isn't it? There's you all chatting away. Okay, bad news read. Absolutely, like, yeah. Elections that's from Niall McConnell. Like, elections organized by the state. I've read it. Okay, so they can't. Well, absolutely agree. Okay, it is important that health should stay a public matter. Somewhat agree. A language is defined by its users, not by scholars. Yeah, somewhat agree. I don't know. I haven't got a huge opinion on that. It is merit that explains differences of wealth between two individuals. I mean, again, capitalism, the idea that, like, for example, if I inherit lots of money, right, and go to Grant Reno's website, sorry, or I think he mentions it there. Corporations, Green Room says, I'm giving Green Room a lot of like credit here, being a mod. I'm reading out her comments, so I don't know. I'll be accused of being a Green Room shill now. But corporations don't like paying out more in benefits to workers than they have to. They only typically do it of their own will if it's up to productivity, or if it's to up productivity. Sorry, again, it's late. I'm reading incoherently. Yeah, totally. So yeah, with capitalism, like, so say I inherit something, or let's say do a bit well personally, and I make a little nest egg of money, right? And then I get to buy 10 houses and rent out those houses, and then just go off on holidays for the rest of my life while those are rented out. If you're renting a few houses like that, you could even have enough in revenue to actually pay someone to just manage those. So you could literally take your hands off, and that's at that scale. When it gets even bigger, it's even more hands off potentially, and it's all just these little files, these little portfolios working away for you and generating money. I don't agree with that. Like, I really, really don't. And there's a lot of, like, capitalism is defined by people owning capital, and there's a lot of strengths to that, but a lot of problems with it, I think, at a gut level. So merit, it can. I mean, people who are really driven and have good, not to sound like Leo Varadkar, but they can get up early, right? They're healthy, they are happy, they maintain a good lifestyle, they look after their mental health, and some people are just have it going on. Those people that can wake up really early and go to bed really late and always like tend to focus, and it almost seems like it goes beyond mere will. They seem like they're made of something really, really strong. And other people, it seems like it goes beyond personal will. They're made of something really frail and fragile and whatever. So that, obviously, when you see someone doing really well, very often that has a role to play in it, like, that basic human essence. So I will say somewhat agree. Research produced by my country should not be made available to other countries. I mean, rather disagree. I don't know. The right to be anonymous on the internet should be guaranteed. I would say yeah, because of all the anons we have. And the idea of questioning the orthodoxy of your time, would have been, let's say, people who were against Catholic Ireland. Now, Niall, I'm not saying anything, right? Don't go mad at me. I'm just saying, let's say those who were against it, they saw it as a bad thing. Archbishop McQuaid or whatever, and they thought he was a bad guy and everything else. To stand up against that ruling elite or ruling class, I mean, anons on the internet would have been very handy. And it's handy for us now, fighting against globalism and liberalism and all that stuff. How dare I, Garrow? How dare you, Garrow? Niall says no. But I think just agree. Anons. If let's say nationalist, national populist became the ruling kind of set of political people and discourse in the country, they could be basically elected into government and kind of whatever, into institutions and stuff. I wouldn't mind anons, like, I just, so long as maybe so long as they had to face you in debate. If they were like us, where we have anons, but we also want them to debate people who aren't anons, like myself or whoever, right? You would, like, the anons would say, we want you to debate someone. Whereas if they were anons, let's say I were a politician and they were anonymous, they were criticizing me. So long as they were like, we just want you to debate and not stop hiding the way the Varadkars and all of these guys do, then I'd be fine. Anyway, I'm getting a bit convoluted, but you know what I'm saying. The right to be anonymous, I think it should be protected. Yeah, massively, actually. I absolutely agree. Some sectors or a type of employment should be financially supported. I mean, what does that mean? Oh, so like agriculture, agricultural subsidies. Anons. Someone says anons. I don't know when I'm saying it like anons. Okay, so yeah, I mean, financially supported, yeah, somewhat agree. I'm just going to skip the ones that I don't have much to say on and just go through them quickly because there's no point. There's a lot of questions here. Activists must act in strict accordance with the law. Somewhat agree. Not absolutely. In the sense of sometimes the laws could be completely unreasonable. Like if the law said that like if the law says that I can't say I don't want to become a minority in Ireland because that's hate speech, then I will not respect that law as an activist. So I have to disagree with that. It is necessary to remove regulations in labour legislation to encourage firms to hire. Nah. I mean, neutral or hesitant. Individuals who get out of prison should be accompanied in their reinsertion. It depends on the prisoner and the type of crime. Neutral or hesitant. Hi everybody, 91 watching. I'm like famous or something, aren't I? Okay, I don't think so. I'll walk around. I'm just sorry. I'm reading random chats here. Everybody's chatting away. Niall's like the MC in the chat here. It's good to see the chat going. Like people, wheeling and dealing. Yeah, I'll come back to it at the end a little bit. Right, I'll keep going because this has to get done. Okay, armed struggle in a country is sometimes necessary. I mean, absolutely agree. State-run companies should be managed like private ones and follow the logic of the market. Competition, profitability. I mean, that could be good. I often say that, like, because the state is bad, and you'll have to do a Q&A. I will. I mean, yeah. Look, yeah, I will. But it's a long, like, this is going to be a long video. Like, it's getting late. 25, 117 questions. So, Serena, I will think about it. Like, we'll see. If I'm still awake and you're still awake, like, then maybe we can. Oh, green room's off. Okay, up early. Good on you. You might want to appoint another mod. That's all good. Whatever. It's just words, sticks and stones, and you're all good anyway. You're all sound. See ya, green room. Take it easy. Bye. State-run companies, yeah, because the problem is a state-run company. See, this is a problem. I started late, and I'm going to lose you all now. State-run companies, the state-run thing is that it's inefficient. Like, imagine trying to buy state-run, like, imagine trying to buy government perfume or a government suit or a government, guitar or something, right? It would be awful, awful, awful crap stuff. Whereas you want that from a private company, and anything the state touches just gets absolutely terrible and slow and ridiculous. And then private companies aren't good in their own way. Let's chat. Bash through the questions. All right, I will. But the private companies tend to be awful and ruthless and monopolistic and all that. So, I have to say, somewhat agree. Revolutions will always end up in a bad way. Rather disagree. But then Burke said something about the French Revolution. I don't know what it was. You tell me. Activism in existing political organizations is not relevant to change society. Activism look, neutral, hesitant. I don't even particularly understand the question. Hacking has a legitimate place in political struggle. Depends who you're hacking, because I support Assange, but Assange technically didn't hack. It was Manning did that for him, but that's the whole question. But then I don't think ordinary citizens should be hacked, let's say state Stasi or by the state itself, to be like, oh, here's your bank account or this or that or whatever. Some people have dodgy histories, right, and all that. But regardless, it just, it's a private space, and it could be weaponized by the powerful against the powerless, and that's bad. But so long as it's used against the powerful, then I somewhat agree. The age of retirement should be lowered. I'm not sure. I'm just going to say neutral, hesitant. Nuclear fission, when well maintained, is a good source of energy. Absolutely agree. When well maintained, yeah, why not? I'll try to get to the end, because now you just want to know what the payoff is when we get, and so do I. So market economy is optimal when it is not regulated. Absolutely disagree. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption and not from an authority. Absolutely disagree. People need to stand up for their ideals, even if it leads them to betray their country. Betray their country, betray their state, betray their people. But I'm so in between on that because it depends on the context. Like if the country meant like the United States of America, then I would disagree, or I would say they should stand up against the US, but not against their people. You know what I mean? So I'm in between. I'm just going to say neutral or hesitant. GMOs should be forbidden outside research and medical purposes. I don't know. I know there's two sides to that argument and stuff. So let's say neutral or hesitant. How's everybody getting on? Nation, God, family. I mean, yeah. Depends on your definition of nation. I know what mine is. So yeah, multiculturalism is a threat to our society. Absolutely agree. Yeah. Transforming ecosystems' durability to increase the quality of life of human beings is legitimate. I think you should try as much as possible to accord with ecosystems. Really, it's kind of a sad thing. There's something inherently sad about it. Even a farmer who's like not like this is not like a data center. Even a simple farmer, but because he starts cropping his field a certain type of animal, or depending on what continent you're in, a certain type of rabbit or a badger or something, a rare breed, an interesting breed that has to like leave its thing or gets killed and it's been there for maybe ages through its ancestors and stuff. I'm like on the BQ now, the badger question. It's very sad, like getting that's going to be memed or something. But you know what I'm saying? It's kind of, there's just something inherently bad about it. I don't know why. But then I like human productivity and progress and frontiersmanship and all that. So I'm just going to say neutral or hesitant. And maintaining strong economic growth should be an objective for the government. Rather disagree. Yeah, because I could go on forever on this, but I can't. The economic growth model. It's like what did I read recently in a chat somewhere or something? Economic growth growth for its own sake is the ideology of a cancer cell, and I think I absolutely agree with that statement. Because it's just gone out of hand. Like it's like follow the line, like line go up, grog, type of thing for investors and all of this. It's ridiculous. You know my points on this. I think if you don't, I could make a video on it. Whatever. I'm not the first to say it. It should be an objective for the government. I mean, no, rather disagree. But I know to some extent you need like resources and all of that. It is a small group that consciously and secretly controls the world. Absolutely agree. It is better to arrest. You know what I'm saying? Globalist elites and all that kind of stuff. It is better to arrest someone potentially dangerous preventatively rather than taking the risk of having them commit a crime. How's the chat going? Yes. Anyway, basically, like the Minority Report type thing, pre-crime, I think is what this is getting at. Rather disagree. Abortion should be limited to specific cases. I mean, yeah, absolutely agree. This idea that it's sad. Even if you were like not a hardline pro-lifer, even if you were, let's say, a centrist or a neutral on it, just the idea that, like a girl of 20, let's say, gets pregnant and feels pressure. Obviously, there's pressure and gets rid of the baby, right? It's a pretty horrible way of putting it, but you know what I mean. Has an abortion, kills the baby, whatever way you want to put it, and that's sad. They talk about the hard cases and all that, but put them aside, right? I'm not saying anything either way about the hard cases. Let's just leave that off. Just look at the case of like the standard one where someone just gets a bit scared, does that. I mean, how often do you meet a woman who like got pregnant, kind of got up the duff when they were 19 or 18 or something like that? They have their kid, and even though they were scared, they just ended up having the kid. Maybe they had it in the days of the 8th Amendment. And like 10 years later, you come back, they're there with their 10-year-old boy or girl taking them to school. I mean, do they seem like they're less happy, or it's just a sad thing. Human death is sad, especially with a child and a baby. That's just how I feel. Should be limited to specific cases. Absolutely agree. a good policy is a pragmatic policy without ideology. No. You need ideology, because pragmatic can turn into like economists these days who think they're like neutral robots, but they're highly ideological, which is a dangerous combination. The kind of cognitive dissonance. I don't even know how to say that. Abortion being used as contraception, disgusting, says Niall. I mean, to some extent, yeah. I mean, it's natural. People are hooking up, right? Degenerate and all as it is, it happens. Let's not, they're hooking up, and they, they're, of course, like, people are, if they don't have protection, they're this, they're that, and there is an element of like, well, there is that last line of defense type of thing of the abortion. I think that will sit on the back of people's minds, as horrible as it is. So yeah, so that's abortion. But ideology, yeah, it's pretending away ideology, or journalists pretending they're objective and all that. It's a dangerous thing, and it's a dangerous pretense, and I hate it. So I'm gonna, let's say, absolutely disagree. Dismissals of employees should be forbidden except if it's justified. I mean, doesn't that make, like dismissing them just because they're like, I don't know, they can be spared or whatever because they're economically replaced by a machine or whatever. But then someone could go, well, maybe that does mean it's justified. The question is kind of phrased strangely. Justified. It depends on your definition of justified. So I'm going to say somewhat agree. The maximum allowed hours in the legal work week should be increased. Nah. I mean, nah, because I understand people who might want to work more or whatever. But that can be arranged. Well, I mean, I don't know, what is the maximum? Because it's not obviously 40 or whatever. I don't know, it's more than that, but no, I think with the later productivity and all of that, of machines and everything, there should be, I mean, there was a time when there was no like day off possible really, and now there is, and that was one. So I don't think, no, I don't think we should be trying to get like increase pension ages and retirement ages and make people work more. That shouldn't be the direction we're going in. I agree with the idea of a bit more leisure time, if possible. And you give the corporate world an inch and it'll take a mile. They would happily have us all having like a 1-day weekend and all of this by law, right? So no, you don't give them the rope to hang you. Should be increased. Rather disagree. How's everybody getting on? We're down to 87. We lost a few sleepers. Those lads. But I hopefully will be asleep in the next hour anyway. I should hurry up. Okay, so I'm just checking the chat. Stop getting distracted. We must fight against global warming. I'm not like anti-global warming. I don't know. I don't like pretending nothing is happening or whatever. I'm just going to say neutral or hesitant. That's a fair answer. Social differences between ethnic groups cannot be explained by biology. They can be explained by biology. So absolutely disagree. I mean, they can be explained to some extent or another by biology. Absolutely disagree. Order and authority should be respected in all circumstances. That's a big question. It's a big philosophical question. Heavy going, gee. But yeah, it should be respected in all circumstances. Should it be respected in all circumstances? Neutral or hesitant. Tradition should be questioned. Sometimes. But then it can be bad. So neutral or hesitant. Biologically, human beings are designed for heterosexuality. I think there is homosexuality in the animal world to some extent. I'm not sure the ins and outs of that. But I don't know. Human beings are designed for heterosexuality. I mean, human reproduction, the kind of, what would Niall call it? I'd like to see what Niall would say on that. The kind of the natural order, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's something in that. Human beings are designed for heterosexuality. Somewhat agree. Patents should not exist. No, they should exist. You should be allowed to patent a bit of intellectual property. Rather disagree. Exploitation of fossil fuels is necessary. Somewhat agree. We should accept changes in our way of consuming food to limit the exploitation of nature. Somewhat agree. Yeah, I don't like mass. Actually, absolutely agree. factory farming and all of that is pretty bad. I don't care where you stand ideologically. It's not cool. How's everybody in the chat? All good? One is born but rather becomes a woman. One is not born, but one or rather becomes a woman. You're not born a woman, you become a woman. Does that mean in a transgender sense or in a kind of actualization terms? I don't know. Neutral or hesitant, lads. I don't know what that means. Selfishness is the overriding drive in the human species, no matter the context. It can be, but then also sometimes people are good. People are transcendent of that. So I'm going to say neutral or hesitant. Sabotage is legitimate under certain conditions. Under certain conditions, surely. Yeah. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is a necessity in order to be protected from terrorist acts. See, in a normal society, the people could just protect themselves from terrorist acts. But in a top-down kind of state that like throws like terrorist threats in front of you, then I suppose they then have to sacrifice some of your liberties to keep you from actually being killed. And if enough of you get killed, then you end up going for the government themselves. It's a vicious, toxic circle. But I mean, there has to be some. Yeah, I mean, like I don't want to get on a plane where nobody gets searched at all. Like where the right to not be searched is respected. I'd be shitting myself. So, I agree somewhat, kind of. Yeah, agree. All these questions are indicative of godless governance. I mean, the questions are the answers, says POW. I don't know, Wu Flu in Dublin. Wu Flu. I've seen Kung Flu as well. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Oh, the woman question might have been about becoming a woman, might have been about transgender. If that's the case, then I should have answered it differently. But what can you do? The fact that some schools and universities are private is not a problem. Absolutely agree. In some specific conditions, I mean, private schools would be good, a bit of diversity in schooling. I don't like the idea of like full-on state schools. They should all be different, religious, private, hippie, whatever, a bit of that. You going on homeschooling. Actually, if the person who was homeschooling was telling me about homeschooling, I met someone recently, if they're watching, because they said they watched some of my videos, they were telling me all about homeschooling their kids. Really nice couple. If they want to just send me an email, just say hi, because it's nice to keep in touch. And you know, you can prove it to you. You can send me the selfie we took. But anyway, that's just a little bit of something else. So yeah, schools. I like the idea of schools, like various types of schools, private and all that. In some specific conditions, the death penalty is justified. Absolutely agree. It is necessary to teach history in order to create a sense of belonging to the nation. I mean, yeah, absolutely agree. The categories of women and men are social constructs that should be given up. Absolutely disagree. That's a bit of an easy one, isn't it? Miraculous Megan says, good night. Take it easy. Sleep well. Some lads in the chat seem to lack nuance, says Laughing Man. I mean, I'm expecting a bit of that. That's kind of normal. The nuance is a bit of an issue for people. But then maybe people are making a point and maybe I'm wrong, right? But see, that's nuance. I don't know. Oh, Serena says good night. Take it easy, Serena. Bye. Okay, I'll get through these whether you're here or not anyway, if I'm on my own by the end of 100 question 117. By myself, that's grand. So I do not have a problem if other official languages are added or replace the already existing official language in my country. Well, that already happened, didn't it, in Ireland? But I don't have a problem. Well, I do have a problem, so I absolutely disagree, I suppose. Homosexuals should not be treated equally to heterosexuals with regard to marriage, filiation, adoption, or procreation. I'm not like you know, this whole thing of like people are I'm gonna get trouble in the chat now, but like, you know, what is it, conversion therapy and all that, and like being, you know, some people have their issue with Muslims or with racists or Jews or whatever. There's one thing apparently that they believe is like their big thing that they focus on, and other people is the gay thing, the GQ, right? I'm not saying anything, just that's not my biggest focus going, right? At the same time, like the question earlier saying that, you know, they like, is it just some kind of like trauma induced thing? That might be somewhat the case, but again, I do think homosexuality exists in some way or whatever, but should it be treated equally to heterosexual with regards to marriage, filiation, adoption, and procreation? Absolutely disagree. No question about it. Insurrection is necessary to deeply change society. Depends. Neutral, hesitant. Space colonization is a good solution for supplying the lack of raw material on Earth. Absolutely agree. Members of a nation or culture have some unchangeable characteristics that define them. Somewhat agree. Preserving non-urban ecosystems is more important than creating jobs. Somewhat agree. 109 countries, someone says. I have no idea what that's about. Borders should eventually be abolished. Absolutely disagree. I mean, maybe in 5,000 years or something, that kind of way. But I'll absolutely disagree for now. What's that? Okay, so changing the system radically is counterproductive. We should rather transform it progressively. Well, we radically need to change it now, so I somewhat rather disagree. My religion must be spread as widely as possible. I mean, my religious take is nuanced. So I'm not a massive evangelist. I'd be lying to say it should be spread. My religion should be spread as widely as possible. I'm rather disagree. I mean, I don't want to go evangelizing Catholicism into like Muslim lands or into Hindu or Buddhist lands or whatever. So I kind of rather disagree. I think, justice should always take into consideration the context and the past of the condemned and adapt their penalty accordingly. So like, I had a tough childhood, la la la. I rather disagree with that. Or maybe I got that one wrong. Can I go back? Yeah. Should always take into consideration. No, rather disagree. Yeah. The police should be armed. Ideally, they shouldn't. They should just be like walking around whistling and like giving people like slaps on the wrist for like, running or running. Wait, that's exclusive, I think. But you know what I mean? For minor infringements, insurance or whatever in your car and all that stuff. They shouldn't live like French police, like having to be like Judge Dredd type looking things, because their country is such a toilet. But in that context, I mean, they should be armed if that's the way they somewhat agree. Garo, the biggest problem is communist infiltration. Don't listen to the shills. I mean, okay. Communist infiltration. Just tell me, it's Pete too. Communist infiltration of society or of the dissident right, like us, the nationalists. So infiltration of society or nationalists. I'm curious about that. Arm the cops. Someone else says the right-wing atheist. But yeah, which one did you mean there, Pete? Too. So anyway, the questions. I'm getting there. We are getting there. You might as well hang in there now, all 89 of you. The purpose of the judiciary system should be to punish those who went against the law. Yeah, I suppose. Somewhat agree. I don't know. I find that like an obvious one. Sexual assaults are partly caused by men's natural impulse. That's some question that would like get you in trouble if you were to try and like, I don't know, be kind of nuanced and like both sides and all this. It's like, that's that kind of one. Let's be honest. YouTube. Oh, really? They can. Okay, Patriot. I'm just going to make you a mod. He says that I can be held accountable for every comment. So if someone's saying crazy shit, I don't want. So Niall, if you could be a mod, if you've got time or whatever, and then people being ideologically this or that, no problem. Be left, right, up and down. Just someone being like putting my channel at risk. I don't want. So you know yourself. You're an expert. So I modded Niall just if he feels like it. So yeah, poor men can't control themselves. Serena Irvine said. Well, like no. So to be really though, like sexual assaults are partly caused by men's natural impulse. Well, it's mainly men commit the sexual assaults. As opposed to women, right? There's kind of rare cases of that, or whatever. The MRAs will be crying now, but like, it's mostly men, right? Do rape, molestation, sexual assault, all of that stuff. Sometimes to other men. Sexual assaults. They're partly caused by men's natural impulse. When I say natural impulse, just for the people who are like trying to quote me or whatever, and put it on the Irish Times, I'm not saying they're natural as in one that should be respected and admired and allowed and facilitated and what made room for any of that. But there's some kind of natural. Obviously, why do men do it all? Well, the only other way to explain it is ideology, which is what the kind of cultural Marxists kind of would say, that it's all just this ingrained thing, actually, that there's no underlying thing in different people. So the idea that certain groups and all sorts of demographics and groups of different natures, not just male and female, do certain things because they are a certain way, partially. I disagree with that across the board. I think there is nature in everything, and of course, in this one, there's something to that. And so by natural, I don't mean good or anything. I mean just inbuilt natural biology. Same way men are end up being violent because more than women. I think that's based in some form of nature. And of course, I don't disagree with murder, let's say, but the reason men murder more is because they have higher testosterone, all of that stuff. So I somewhat agree. I have to shuck and jive around these things. I know the chat kind of hate it, and it sounds like cooking and all that, but I'm the one on camera here. That's that's what I would say, as well as that. You do have to be a little bit. You can't just go wild on total free, off the cuff stream of consciousness stuff and whatever. Serena Irvin says, blame the testosterone. I don't know. It's a good question. It's like there's like a part of it. I mean, sexual assault is like the idea that it's like informed by rape culture, for example. Like that's a pretty discredited theory. Like the West is not a rape culture, but yet rape does happen. So how are you going to explain it? Like, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. No point lingering on that too hard. Revenue and capital should be taxed to redistribute wealth. Absolutely agree. Yeah, it should be taxed. I mean, tax is theft. People in the chat. Sorry. Absolutely agree. Social assistance deters people from working. It can and it does, yeah. Like, it's not to be against social assistance, but like, for example, the people who work on minimum wage, whereas if they go on the dole and they get a medical card and all of that, they actually might position themselves slightly above minimum wage in terms of lifestyle, or maybe even in terms of risk. Like you get 4 teeth that need like root canals and all of this stuff, and you're on minimum wage with high rent and this and that, you're screwed. So you might like take a preemptive measure to put yourself on the dole in advance. That's one of those things. Or people with a certain amount of kids, they say, well, maybe I'd be better off single and unemployed, because I actually, that way, if something happens, then I can just put the hand out for it rather than being screwed. That people who are caught in the middle, it's very tough. And they end up on social assistance. So it can deter people from working in that sense. Apart from making people lazy and all that stuff, it actually can pragmatically deter people from work as well. So anyway, deters people from working, somewhat agree. No one should get rich from owning a business, housing, or land. Rather disagree, because I do think my take on something like capitalism and getting rich off things and all that is that, let's say you own a couple of houses, or you own a really good business, innovative and all that, you should be allowed to get rich, but there should be a ceiling on it. Like, for example, I end up buying a second house to rent out, and then I make so much revenue off that and my own work that I can buy a third house and then a fourth, and I'm doing really, really well, and I'm like a millionaire from that. My point is that at some point you go, that's fine. You're rich, you're doing nothing. And then there's a point where you go, not anymore, right? Because you're already rich. Do you need to be double rich? Not really, obviously. So depending on the business or the housing and the land, I'd be more inclined to let people get rich from business than from housing or land, because one involves actual creativity and hard work and stuff. The other just involves owning stuff. So look, neutral hesitant. Foreigners living in my country should be allowed to act politically equally to those who have the nationality. Foreigners living in my country. Absolutely disagree. Mass strike is a good way to acquire new rights. Somewhat agree. My country must pay for the damages caused by the crimes it committed to other countries. We committed no crimes to other countries. Ireland did nothing wrong, so absolutely disagree. The main goal of a couple is to make at least one child. I mean, it depends on the couple, all of that kind of stuff. I could shuck around on that one. Oh, I hope my screen is buffering there. Sorry, I hope I'm still going. Yeah, all good. I mean, absolutely agree. Yeah, look, you should be aiming for that as a general rule of thumb. If there's people out there who really specifically, for some odd reason, don't want a child, but they love each other and they're good for each other, then all good. Or fertility issues and stuff, that's different. The exceptions, not all, but like generally, absolutely agree. The influence of religion should decrease. Rather disagree. We should always distance ourselves from protesters who use violence. Absolutely agree. National chauvinism during sport competitions is not acceptable. Absolutely disagree. You should have a laugh. It makes it fun. Makes it mean something more than just sports ball, at least if it's your own countrymen and all of that. Okay, so it is not acceptable that human action should lead to the extinction of the species. Absolutely agree. I think that's pretty straightforward. I don't think that's controversial. Like, is it necessary to avoid private monopoly? Absolutely agree. Energy and transport structure should be a public matter. Yeah. There's only George Galloway's got a good thing on this. I don't know, if you wanted, I could link it, but then I would be doing this. I could maybe come back afterwards and put it in the comments. I suppose I can do that. But he's giving a speech at Oxford or something, and he mentions this. Just the idea that there's only so many tracks on the rail. There's only so many railway tracks, and so many, like, all the companies who use the electricity and the gas run it through the same set of pipes, right? So if the pipes are there and they're put down largely by the state, sometimes private has a role as well. But anyway, long story short, should be a public matter. I absolutely agree. Prisons should no longer exist. Absolutely disagree. I mean, just on the face of it, minimal levels of salary should be ensured to make sure the worker can live off his her work. Absolutely agree. Abstinence should be preferred to contraception to preserve the true nature of the sexual act. Whoa. I'm busting out the wine for this one. There we go. That'll help. I want to be honest here, should be preferred to contraception to preserve. I mean, people just aren't going to be abstinent in reality, but then contraception does terrible things to the population. Is Serena laughing at me? Laugh it up, lads. I'm a little bit of a realist to some extent, so rather disagree. Offshoring and outsourcing are necessary evils to improve production. Well, yeah, to improve production, maybe. But no, rather disagree. Loans contracted in the public sphere, state, regions, collectives. Yeah. I'm not even able to read now. Collectivities or anyway, I'm not dyslexic at all, right? But that word has thrown me for some reason. Should not necessarily be refunded. Okay. Loans contracted in the public sphere should not necessarily be refunded. I'm just being dumb. I'm being grog on that, so I'm going to say neutral hesitant. I'm not quite sure what they mean. Where's the whiskey, Garrod? I know, yeah, the wanky, glass of wine versus the Chad whiskey. I actually had, like, not my first whiskey, but someone, and if they're watching, they might be watching. They'll know who it is, I'd say. But with ice, a glass of it, and usually it makes me sick. I used to have it at bars and clubs when I was younger and stuff like that, and it would just, I don't know, it would actually make me feel sick. But then a nice glass of it on ice, slowly, conversation, it was quite nice, actually. First time I enjoyed whiskey. Chad wine, is it? Brittany Archer says. But anyway, I'll have to drink for this. Just while we're talking about it, you know what I'm saying? Sexual orientation is a social construct. I rather disagree. Absolutely disagree. Rather disagree. A good citizen is a patriot. Absolutely agree. Where are we now, lads? 93 out of 117. So stick with it, lads. Stick with it. Alcohol equals haram, or is haram, says Kanata Chan. Sorry, did I miss a question there? A good citizen is a patriot. Absolutely agree. Violence against individuals is never productive. I mean, what if the individual is attacking you? I'm going to say neutral or hesitant. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offence or a crime. So neutral, hesitant. I don't know the criminal justice system that inside out. So whatever. Reduction of waste should be done by reducing production. Reducing, neutral, hesitant. It is necessary to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers. according to their needs. Assemblies to ration. According, that's some kind of communist stuff. This is where I'm kind of preempting the questions by what they want me to say, but necessary to implement assemblies. I don't know what assemblies are to ration our production. Nah, I'm just going to say nah, rather disagree, let's say. Citizens should take priority over foreigners. Yeah, some foreigners are citizens actually in this country, but anyway, should take priority over foreigners. Citizens, absolutely agree. We need to establish a monarchy to federate the people and preserve our sovereignty. I don't know much about monarchy versus this or that. Again, the rule here is that I won't pretend to know what I don't, too much. Monarchy, maybe I could think about it and come back to that question. But for now, neutral or hesitant. Technological progress must not change society too quickly. I absolutely agree. The idea that, like, Tucker Carlson versus Ben Shapiro, like if we had self-driving trucks tomorrow, Tucker Carlson said he absolutely wouldn't allow those, and Shapiro was like, we would, or whatever, because he's a certain kind of point of view and all that. But Carlson was right. I mean, you would actually artificially halt the advance of production to protect, societal well-being and all of that stuff. Conditions of life in jail should be greatly improved. I rather disagree. I mean, well, I have an issue with that because sometimes people are in jail and they don't belong there. So, or, whatever. So that can be the case. Should be greatly improved. I'm neutral or hesitant. Depends. It depends on a lot of things. It is acceptable that some industry sectors are private. Sure, somewhat agree. Heavy penalties are efficient because they are dissuasive. Depending on the crime, heavy penalties for a really bad crime that is really, really bad and really messes with things. They're dissuasive. I mean, they're dissuasive. So, somewhat agree. Humans should neither eat nor exploit animals. Hunting, like, I've explored the whole vegan thing a bit and all of that. And so if there are any vegans or vegetarians watching, I'm not talking from a position of ignorance here, but I mean, they should not eat or exploit animals. I'm neutral or hesitant because let's say if someone is hunting and all of this, it's different from factory farming. It's too complicated a question, so I'll say neutral or hesitant. Euthanasia should be authorized. Absolutely disagree. Eat the vegans. Jimmy O'Flaherty says. The values of my country are superior to those of other countries. I mean, the Irish values, we don't really have that. Like, well, we do, but like, this kind of like Enlightenment British values and German idealism and American exceptionalism and all that. Ireland is a country of, maybe I'm just ignorant, but I understand at a gut level and kind of generally speaking what Irish kind of values kind of are but they're kind of unwritten in a certain kind of way. Rule of law, as someone is saying. I know that kind of context, but I just mean in a kind of Nimble Horse is saying rule of law. I mean, kind of like the deepest values, like rule of law makes sense, but rule of law isn't an Irish phenomenon originally. Or maybe someone could talk about Brehon. It's getting a bit convoluted here, so I'm going to say superior to those of other countries, definitely to a lot of other countries, without doubt. So, and whatever. So I'll absolutely agree, just on, in general. Someone says, okay, the chat goes off on tangents and I'm reading it going, how did they get there? But I don't want to be reading back and figuring it all out. So transhumanism will be beneficial because it will allow us to improve our capacities. I mean, a lot of people will automatically go against transhumanism. And so I think it's like updating humans and merging us with the computers basically and stuff. Now, I don't want to be like a Google account, like brain, but at the same time, I don't want to be, I mean, like, what if a certain amount of transhumanism could protect you from disease and ill health and tiredness and this and that, or injury or whatever, or if it could just messing with your brain is probably a sensitive aspect because that's weird. Like if it said, "Oh, we won't change your mind or the way you are, we'll just make you really smart and really your cognitive capacity really really quick, like massive high IQ." In analytical sense or whatever, but that would change your personality in the way you are, or not if you happen to be like that already, like myself. But not like, but You know what I'm saying? Tinkering with the brain is the thing. But what if they said, "Hey, we can make you we can just make you like robust and strong against illness and this and that and all of that stuff." Maybe that's just medicine and it's not transhumanism, but will be beneficial. It'll allow us to improve. I mean, I'm going to say somewhat agree lightly because there's potential for some good out of it. So, transgender individuals will never really be the gender they would like to be. Can I get banned off YouTube for answering this question? Maybe. I mean, what am I supposed to do here? This is what the society is like. And if you think I'm wrong, like, I mean, look it up. People do get banned for this stuff. I'm not acting the martyr here. I'm waiting for the chat to catch up to me here. Because can I answer this question? Am I able to? They will never really be. Is that kind of like dead naming? Say nothing. Someone saying say nothing. Take it off screen before clicking. Haha, very good. Yeah, good call. I mean, can I do that? Will I? I'm trying to mess around with it here. I'm just going to click on it. I've lost my mouse. There it is. Okay, what if I do this? Okay, you'll see my desktop there. Expose the ugly truth. Okay, so I have it here. They will never really be the gender they would like to be. Wait for it. Listen to it. There we go. Okay, I'll bring us back. Now, there we go. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their future employer. I don't understand what that means, lads, and it's late. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, how's the chat? Let me find you again. Okay. Did I break? I think people are saying maybe I broke the rules of the stream. I actually censored the answer and all that. But you know what the story is, right? He's after cheating. Oh, lad. Okay, you know what I'm getting at there. I was really just trying to make a point in a way, a kind of a rhetorical, performative point. I mean, I can tell you secretly sometime over a pint what my answer was. Someone says, Kevin O'Higgins says, phones already exist. Transhumanism doesn't. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, fair enough, fair point. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their future employer. Basically, that question's confusing me a little bit. Neutral or hesitant is a solid answer there. School should mostly teach our values, traditions, and fundamental knowledge. That's hard to disagree with that. Yeah, absolutely agree. All sciences, even chemistry and biology, are not absolute and are subject to being shaped by our society. So, like science, bro. IFL science, you know. I mean, the cult of scientism is a bit of a weird one, but the scientific method in general, I don't think should be a pint of wine. It's not a pint. Come on, Jesus. And this is going to be a screenshot now. Like, oh God, being online like it's tough, you know, because you're always there, putting yourself out there. What's the point of this survey again? Says POW. I have no idea. That's the answer. Oh, it's to figure out. Sorry, it's my political compass, where I stand on the political compass according to this thing, and just to some kind of casual listening entertainment. So you don't have to put an RT on maybe, and have something else to kind of just listen to. I don't know. Does it compare to RTE? Maybe not. So it should like society be have like controlled science but I like the scientific method in general. While I'm not one of these gay science worshippers, like or scientism worshippers, let's say, like these kind of soy boys, so or bugmen kind of type people, like Neil deGrasse Tyson said something, oh my God, type of thing. It's just infuriating, actually. I hate it. I absolutely despise that culture. But I like the scientific method. Are absolute and should not be shaped by our society. Somewhat agree. Scientific method I like. Looking for one's own profit is healthy for the economy. Rather disagree. I think it's an ugly way to view the world. I have no idea, he says. Did I say that? Did I? I don't know. I'm trying to catch up with I'd say the compass has lost its way. Why is it not? Oh, someone's saying, why is the glass not a pint? Because it's just not a pint. It's not a pint. A pint glass is different. It's twice as big. That's why it's not a pint. But it is legitimate for a country to intervene militarily to defend its economic interests. difficult one. I mean, neutral or hesitant, you know? I don't want to give Americans slack here. Or America, the American empire, not Americans. The labor market enslaves workers. Somewhat agree. I mean, it can. Yeah. Scientific method is great. Sorry, I don't know if I just burped into the mic. First stream and I'm burping into the mic, right? I've seen all the streamers do it. I think it's allowed. It's cool. What someone said there. Scientific method is great, coupled with critical thinking. No one's flower. Yeah. The idea that you don't basically. Yeah, basically that. So question 114. So three questions left. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Do you know? The filing and storage of personal records should be delimited strictly. And what? Personal records should be delimited strictly, and database cross-checking should be forbidden. Somewhat agree. Differences of treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism is still omnipresent. Differences of treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism. I don't know how to answer that one, but I absolutely disagree because I just don't like racism discourse and all that stuff. I disagree with the premise of the question or whatever, but I'll just go with absolutely disagree. We're on the home stretch. Come on, GM. Come on, Garrod, says Graham Reardon. Okay, we're getting there, lads. Is it acceptable that there are rich and poor people? Somewhat agree. Yeah, sure. Hormonal differences can... final question. Hormonal differences can explain some differences in individual characteristics between men and women. Absolutely agree, obviously. Now, what happens now? What does this mean? The result of your politiscale is... Oh, what? I thought it would give me a big answer. We might get a final answer. Of your politiscale is decomposed in 8 axes. Each axis indicates your positioning compared to 2 opposed ideologies. Some particular characteristics displayed at the end of the page can also complete your result. For information on the different axes, look to the help page. Okay, so on what the okay, so it looks like that. Fatherland, work, family. Is that what they're calling me? Is that like my kind of like national motto? If I had a what? Someone's saying I'm racist. Is that what it's saying? Does it? Okay, where does it say it? People are saying it says I'm far right, which of course I'm a centrist. I'm a centrist. Centrist. I'm center of center. You know, obviously, everybody knows that. So it's fatherland, work, family. Essentialism, communism. I mean, I can leave it to you there. Am I just being too slow to like figure out what all this means? Kind of. There's a lot going on. Constructivism, essentialism. I don't know what those things mean. Let's this one. Okay, communism and capitalism. I'm 31% communist, 31% capitalist, and 38% center. So, like I told you, massive centrist, massive centrist. Rehabilitative. Things are constructed versus. So I'm strong in essentialism. I understand what essentialism is. Things are what they are at an essential level. 67%. Cool. Rehabilitative justice. I'm mostly into punitive justice. Sure. Regulationism versus laissez-faire. I'm into regulation. Sure. Progressivism versus conservatism. I'm mostly conservative. Not a massive surprise, even for a centrist like myself. Ecology versus productivism. Would they use strange words in this test? I would say productivity would be the word they should use there. I'm actually more on productivity than ecology. That's sad because I would have thought I'm more on ecology. Interesting. 40% in the middle. So fair enough. Nationalism versus internationalism. Massive win for nationalism there. Radical centrist. Exactly. Like extremist. Well, I won't say extremist, but I am a radical way out there on the center. Or like on the center. I'm like infinite, like singularity into the center. So internationalism, so big win on nationalism versus globalism, we'll say. Reformism versus revolution. I'm bigger on revolution, actually. I suppose that those are the times that are in it. What does it say here? Complotism. The biggest problems of our society are the work of a small group of people. It is then essential to find them, inform the people of their objective, and neutralize them. That's what this website is saying. I didn't say anything. The website says that for some reason at the bottom. I don't know what's going on there at all. It's critiqued here. How's it going critiqued? Nationalism, internationalism is the main kind of axis there. I agree. Yeah. But I don't know. I wish it would tell me in like a kind of a straight up kind of sense, like what I am. You know what I mean? It says fatherland, work, family. Am I missing something? Tell me in the chat if I'm missing. You can see the screen like I can, right? Is there some kind of final answer, or is it just that kind of general fatherland, work, family? They're telling me. Do you know what I mean? What is the actual? Is that it? Is it kind of slightly vague answering? Because I thought they would say you're a radical centrist, Gerald. Yeah. You're a nationalist. Get over it, says Serena. Yeah, fair enough. Do not restart the test, lol. That's funny. And I did say lol out loud. Ironically, you know. Yeah, I think that is it. So look, there's no point being like whatever, talking for another like half an hour just to close it off. It's kind of like when people leave your house and they're standing there at the door like, I'm off anyway, and they still stand there being like, right, so we must call again. Nah. Critics just here a few minutes. Well, we've been here ages, so I'm going to be going and leaving everyone at it. I want to do more streams. Hopefully you enjoyed this one to some extent, and actually hopefully as well I would do more streams like the last video I did on Sinn Féin, for example. I would have much rather, I kind of get a bit strange or something when I'm trying to record. It's a bit sterile and weird talking to yourself. I could have done that presentation bit by bit with the chat and with the whatever, with all of you guys, and done it like this, and it would be much better. So basically what I'm saying is I'll do this, like more of this, but maybe with more substantial content or like things to look at than a political scales test, which is kind of just like you know, just a kind of platform to talk about stuff, you know. So that's why I did this, and hopefully this was enjoyable for you too. But I want to do more streams, but you know, maybe more in-depth kind of content or kind of not interesting. You know what I'm saying? You know. So that's about it. Now I have to figure it. So it's still a stream test, and I'm still testing. So the last final part I have to do is actually turn it off, and I have the thing there. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy and sleep well. Have a good one. Bye. Oh, fucking hell. See, that's why it's a test, because I was cool saying goodbye, and I think I'm still on. It's a bit mortifying, actually, because I was like, grand, they're gone. But so what happens is it gives you a second option to say goodbye. But finally, and I think this is it, take it easy. See ya.